all. I wanted to take some time to go over thoroughly the Brian Armstrong's blog post that he wrote last week when I was on vacation. Coinbase is a mission focused company. And the title of this is so needed right now because on the surface, I don't have problems with this. And this is where people don't understand. When I'm talking about business, when I'm talking about um, prioritizing the most vulnerable, when I'm talking about, the guiding principles of tech is not neutral, nor is it apolitical. Um, Intention without strategy is chaos. Lack of inclusion is a risk management and increasingly a crisis management issue, and we have to prioritize the most vulnerable. When I look at this, I see glaring red flags. I don't know Brian, and I don't know. All I can go by what he said, and then I read some of his culture document. I'll be putting all of that underneath this video so that you can have context. And I find a lot of this stuff very problematic, particularly the fact that when you're the default, being apolitical is a choice. So I've been trying to figure out how I want to go through this, but I just reread it and I took a little notes, and I'm going to read through this, but I want to start with the last page because this is where it breaks down for me. So I'll go through, but it says this is the conclusion. This is on page 7 of his last page. These are difficult times, and every CEO I know is trying to figure out how to lead through it. I recognize that our approach is not for everyone and may be controversial. I know that many people may not agree, and some employees may resign. I also know that some of what I've written above will be misinterpreted, whether accidentally or on purpose. And so I want to just address this. I'm not misinterpreting anything. So I'm going by his words, and I'm going to put something on top of it. So I want people to understand that I'm not taking his words and turning them around. I just want us to look through a different lens, his words through a different lens. But I believe it's the right approach for Coinbase that will set us up for success long term. And I would rather be honest and transparent about that than equivocate and work in a company that is not aligned. I completely agree with that. This last part that is guiding this whole conversation or dialogue I'm having. We need to do a better job of being authentic about who we are, and hopefully this blog post is the first step in that direction. We are an intense culture, and we are apolitical. We are an apolitical culture. There is nothing apolitical about work. And this is where I challenge. We're also committed to making Coinbase a place that creates incredible job opportunities and welcoming environment for people of every age, race, gender, and orientation. That right there is the first contradiction. You cannot be apolitical and then put all people of every age, race, gender, and sexual orientation when age, race, gender, and sexual orientation are political. They are political. So it's this huge contradiction, and he's not the only one that makes it. It is several. When you're the default, when you're the white dude who was able to code something, who was able to get money to fund something, who was able to get expertise in to help guide your choices, that in itself is political, since most people from marginalized communities, underrepresented communities, don't have that. But specifically, and you can say that's subjective, but specifically, you cannot be apolitical and still say that you are welcoming an environment for people of every age, race, gender, and sexual orientation. It's not possible. It's not the reality. Age is a political issue. Race is a political issue. Gender is a political issue. Sexual orientation is a political issue. Are political issues. So that right there is where it's the binary thinking that white folks do. It's the on off switch. It's the good, bad, the right. This is not binary. So now let me go back and break this down a little bit. And so I'm just going to read through it. On page 1, everyone is asking the question about how companies should engage in broader societal issues during these difficult times while keeping their teams united and focused on a mission. Coinbase has had its own challenges here, including employee walkouts. I decided to share publicly how I'm addressing this in case it helps others navigate a path through these challenging times. I get it. And I appreciate the fact that he wants to help others. Um, in short, I want Coinbase to be laser focused on achieving its mission because I believe that this is the way we can have the biggest impact on the world. That right there is not apolitical. That right there is political. The fact that you want to have a big impact on the world is not apolitical. That is political. That means you want to influence. You want to change. You want to adapt. All these. That is not an apolitical statement. We will do this by playing as a championship team, focus on building and being transparent about our mission, what our mission is and isn't. So I fundamentally have a problem with this play as a championship team, but I'm going to read you and then I'm going to keep going. I'm going to explain. During difficult times, I think it's important to go back to the guideposts we've established, like our culture doc mission and values. I have also problems with his culture doc, and I'll put that in again under the video because it's a culture fit thing, and culture fit is all inherently discriminatory. If you're bringing people in and you expect them to fit your culture, that's inherently discriminatory. One of the tenets of Coinbase culture doc is that we play like a championship team. What does that mean? Be company first. We act as hashtag one Coinbase, putting the company's goals ahead of any particular team or of individual goals. That makes sense to me. Act in service to a greater mission. We have united as a team to try and accomplish something that none of us could have done on our own. I agree with that. This is why I don't like competition. I rather collaboration because when you do competition or oh no, excuse me, not competition. When you do what's the word? Compromise. I don't like compromise because if you think about how I see compromise, it's like you have these paints colors, right? And everybody comes in and they put their specific assigned color on the table. Well, then people's like, well, I don't like that color and I don't like that color. And what you end up with is a whole bunch of shit that nobody wants. Nobody at the table is happy, but this is what is left. Because that's what basically compromise is like, what is left when everybody chips away at it. I prefer collaboration. We put all our paints together and we create something together that we couldn't create by ourselves. So I agree with that. Here's where I have a problem. Default to trust. We assume positive intent among our teammates and assume ignorance over malice. We have each other's back. That historically is not true for marginalized people in not only in tech space but in business period. And so that is where the default this is where the default of being white male Christian cisgender able-bodied is problematic because you believe that your experiences are universal, and that's why you challenge when people say, no, that's not the experience I'm having. That's not the experience I've historically had. That's not the experience that none of any of us are having if we're not these cisgender, heterosexual, Christian, able-bodied men of a certain age. So no, I don't default to trust. You have to earn trust. That's in every relationship. Any healthy relationship requires people to have earned your trust. When you just give trust by default, you can be manipulated. All kinds of things happen. And so when you actually bring up a problem, they don't understand because you trust me, right? It has nothing to fucking do with it. If I trust you, you've done something that has caused harm, and that is something that we need to deal with. This is not about a trust issue. This is about your actions have caused harm, your decisions have caused harm, and we need to deal with that. So no, I don't trust by default. People in marginalized communities have learned not to trust by default because when we do that, we are harmed. It happens in our medical communities. We have been experimented on. It happens in educational systems, when two white kids, a white kid and a black kid, are exhibiting the same behaviors, but overwhelmingly the data shows that a white kid would get an ADHD diagnosis and the black kid would get an EBD, which is emotional defiant disorder, EBD, no, emotional behavior disorder, diagnosis. That's two different tracks. If I've been labeled ADHD, then everything is about, in my educational space, is about helping me acclimate and get educated, helping me differentiate instruction, all these other things that help me in my education. If I'm on the EBD track, emotional behavior disorder, all it is about managing my fucking behavior. That's it. I've taught school. I'm certified special needs. It's not about getting them their education. It is about keeping them under control in this environment. So no, trust by default is harmful. It's historically harmful for the most vulnerable. So no, we're not doing that. Focus on what unites us and not divides us. We help create a sense of cohesion and unity by focusing on what we have in common, not on what we agree, especially if it's unrelated to our work. See, this is where I have problems, because again, it's the binary. We're not creating widgets anymore, right? So you get a job, somebody gives you a manual, you go on an assembly line, you're making, and there are other people there, and you're making the same exact same widget, because that widget has to go in 1,000 different things. In the objective view, if you're successful, does that widget work in the things it's supposed to work in? That's not the economy we have anymore. And that's not what this kind of business, that's not even how Coinbase operates. They're not a widget making company. They're an information creating company. And to say that what do you disagree with is unrelated to work is problematic. Specifically, again, when you have this, oh, we're trying to save the world mentality. The lines are very blurred between what is work related and what's not work related, particularly as we see with the pandemic and people working from home and people have their kids there and all these other things. Work and home are very much entwined right now. And I see that going forward. So to say that, especially if it's unrelated to work, who gets to decide what's related to work? If I'm dealing with something, I'm at work and I'm dealing with something, it's work related. And sustained high performance as compared to a family where everyone is included regardless of performance, the championship team makes a concerted effort to raise the bar of talent, including changing out team members when needed. See, this is why, okay, through this lens, okay, through this lens, we start to have a glimpse of a solution. A championship team wants to win, and every teammate is willing to make a sacrifice to achieve that. We have each other's back and focus relentlessly on the long-term goal, avoiding distractions. See, this is where, everybody's not having the same lived experience. A championship team, let's look at, because he has this picture of Michael Jordan. That team was Michael Jordan. The other people played, they were not equals. They weren't treated equal. They didn't make the same money equal. They don't have the same money now, years later, equally. So to make this assertion that, so what happened with the Bulls at that time was everybody played to Michael Jordan. Same thing you see with everybody plays to Shaq. Everybody plays to in football, Tom Brady. Everybody plays to that, how they play. That is not team. That is, we play to one person who is elevated. And that goes back into that culture that I'm really trying to get us to shed in tech, the ninja, the 10X, the unicorns, where we focus all our attention on these, what people would consider high performance. And I would have to challenge, why are they high performance? What measures are you using for high performance? Are they just coding more? Is it just quantity? How is the quality? How is that quality impacting other people? There are other questions that have to be asked before somebody tells me that they're high performance and I believe it. So I have a real problem with that, because the person, this is about team. If you're looking at, again, Michael Jordan, And right now, I have no idea how many people on a basketball team, but let's say it's 12. And Michael Jordan is number one. Number 12 should be getting the same treatment as number one. And we absolutely know that that does not happen. So now we're getting into the next one is focus on building. There are many places that a company can choose to allocate its limited time and resources. I agree with that. And there is never enough time to do everything. So companies need to choose what change they want to see in the world and focus there. It can take decades to move the needle on large global change challenges. I absolutely agree with that. And this is why so many people are frustrating for me, because they're expecting overnight shit to happen that has been going wrong forever, and it's not going to happen overnight. At Coinbase, we saw that we are focused on, we say that we're focused on building. What does that mean? It means that we're going to focus on building the best company we can and making progress towards our mission as compared to broader societal issues. Okay. We focus on the things that help us achieve that mission. We build better products. Okay. Um, Source amazing talent. I would have to see that to believe, because I saw there's also, I'll put that under that, they have this way of evaluating talent in interviews. I would have to see the data that proves that that is better for the most marginalized. Fair talent practices, and this is where I put the we work to reduce unconscious bias in our interviews, showing things like using things like structured interviews and ensuring fair practices, how we pay and promote. That's another reason I have a problem with the word fair. It means who gets to define fair, and that's people who have the privilege. We pay for performance culture. This is where we start. I see we're starting harm. We pay for perform. We pay. We have a pay for performance culture, which means that we reward that your rewards and promotions are linked to your overall contribution to the company and mission and company goals. Okay, on the surface, that sounds great. That sounds perfect. It sounds like meritocracy, but we know that does not exist. We know that meritocracy does not exist. Again, it is the who gets to decide whose value. This is why engineers are paid so much more money than people who actually have to deal with the code and market the code and sell the code and sell the products and stuff. And so this is problematic. This is problematic. Because pay for performance culture sounds great, but we don't have equality. It would be great if we had equality in our organizations, but we don't. We don't. Can't even get to equity. So that statement in itself is problematic and does not resonate with the reality of business. It's not just Coinbase. It is business, period. It is not performance culture, because there is not equality. And then we enable belonging for everybody. We work to create an environment where everyone is welcome. We can do this. We can do their best work regardless of background, sexual orientation, race, gender, age. Again, you can't be apolitical. That's not apolitical. We focus minimally on causes not directly related to our mission. Policy decisions. If there's a bill introduced around crypto, we may engage here, but we normally won't engage in policy decisions around healthcare and education, for example. And see that I get it. I get it. And it's silo thinking though, because to say I'm only gonna focus on stuff that's specifically the crypto, when you're trying to change the world, crypto is gonna impact healthcare and education. See, you can't be in silos. You have to think broadly. You have to think these systems. A crypto economy is a fucking economy, and it touches other things. It says nonprofit work. And then it says, oh no, wait a minute. Enabling every belonging for every. Okay, I did that one. And then it says we're minimally full of. I said policy work and nonprofit work. They have their little thing, and then broader societal issues. We do not engage here when issues are unrelated to our core mission. because we believe impact only comes with focus. Again, the impact of ignoring broader societal issues is harm. I'm not saying they have to go out here and picket. I'm not saying they have to go to marches. I'm not saying any, but there cannot, if this is your goal, is to have an impact globally, you have to have a broader view. And then political causes. And so, of course, there are exceptions here around internal employment matters, whistleblowing, etc. And we want all employees to feel safe disagreeing on the work itself. Candor and debate are core to a healthy team where it is safe to disagree. We consider these to be related to our mission. That's the problem, though. It's the default belief that you, as the default white Christian, able-bodied, heterosexual, cisgender individuals of a certain age, know what healthy teams look like. And actually, and if you did, that you could replicate that. That is problematic. So now we're in the why are we mission focused? It has become common for Silicon Valley companies to engage in a wide variety of social activism, even those unrelated to what the company does. I have a problem with the tech industry being Silicon Valley, because that's not the truth. So that by default is political. And he writes in all bold, the reason is that while I think our efforts, these efforts are well intended, they have a potential to destroy a lot of value at most companies, both by being a distraction and by being intentional internal division. So this is the binary thinking. It's the either or. We either focus on our mission or we focus on social issues. How about an and? We can do and. I think we're capable of doing and. I think we can do and. I'm not saying what social issues you should be focused on, but social issues impact the decisions you make in your business, or they should. So it's about and. It's not or, it's and. I believe that most employees don't want to work in these divisive environments. They want to work on a winning team that is united and making progress towards an important mission. They want to be respected at work, have a welcoming environment where they can contribute. I just read this and I'm laughing, and have growth opportunities. They want the workforce to be a refuge from the division that is increasingly present in the world. Hey, Black folks, wouldn't you have wanted this all along? Hey, LGBTQ individuals, wouldn't you have wanted this all along? Hey, folks with disabilities, invisible and non-invisible, wouldn't you have wanted this all along? And so it's just interesting to me that now this is the thing. And you know why this is the thing? Because the default is being challenged. That's why you're hearing so much about this, because the default is being challenged. The people who have been the default, they're being challenged. No one is shutting down conservative conversations or marginalized conservative conversations. Businesses have been conservative, particularly in the United States, since the 70s. That was an intentional strategy. What's happening is conservative voices aren't the only ones in the room anymore. So, and people who from marginalized communities are emboldened to speak their truth now. So it's not like anything's changed. The thing that's changed, it's not like their experiences are getting better or has it gotten worse. They've always been shitty. It's just that now that with representation matters, marginalized and underrepresented voices are like, fuck this, I'm speaking out. What else I have to lose? I'm not sitting here in silence anymore. And maybe that is the problem, because we hadn't spoken up for years, for centuries, for generations. And so now people think, oh, this is new, but it's not new. These people have been holding this in every time they come to work. So they've been dealing with political. It's just now that the default whiteness has having to deal with this. Change happens in the world only when the smart, talented group of people come together and to focus on a hard problem for a decade or more. Many companies never stand the test of time because they decide to dabble in unrelated efforts and distract and divide their workforce in the process. Paradoxically, by being laser focused on our mission, we will likely have an even greater impact on the world through our products and growing customers. And so this again is the you want you don't want to dabble in these things that you consider unrelated, but yet you want to change the world. Well, these things are related to the world. You can't have it both ways. Either or. It is a and. Lastly, I would go again. Lastly, it would go against our principles of inclusion and belonging to be more of an activist company on issues outside of our core mission. And see, this is where I get you're throwing out terms that are kind of are triggering, that are loaded. Activist company. You don't have to be an activist company. I don't even know what the hell that is. There are some people right now who want to be an anti-racist company. I'm getting a whole bunch of conversations, calls, and emails about that. People don't know what the hell that is. This is a term they're using. But an activist company. Okay. Um, we have people who with many different backgrounds and viewpoints at Coinbase. And even if you agree, and this is in all caps, and even if we all agree that something is a problem, we may not all agree how to actually solve that. Yes, that is the ongoing challenge. See, this is where it becomes interesting to me. You want to create and change the world, but you don't want the to do the work of being challenged. You don't want to deal with the discomfort of the actual work. The work is uncomfortable. If you want to change the world, then that's saying that something is wrong with the world now, and we have to challenge that, and that's uncomfortable work. You can't be either or. Can't be either or. This is where there is a blurry line between moral statements and politics. We could use our work day debating what to do about various unrelated challenges in the world. And that's triggering, that's loaded, various unrelated challenges. But that would be not be of service to the company or our interests as employees and shareholders. See that right there. You don't get, if you want to change the world, you don't get to dictate what problems are in the world that you want. No, if you're going to change the world, you need to address the problems that the world has. And so now we're in what is the scope of the mission? Coinbase's mission is to create an open financial system for the world. Again, this world thing, this means that we want to use cryptocurrency to bring economic freedom to people all over the world. I realized that at some point this year that many employees were interpreting our mission in different ways. Some people interpret our mission more broadly to include all forms of equality and justice. It makes sense if you believe that economic freedom is not possible without equality for all. Others interpret the mission more narrowly, believing that we are trying to create infrastructure for a crypto economy, and that, yes, we would create more equality of access for all people, but we weren't trying to solve all forms of equality in the world. Okay, so you want to create the infrastructure for cryptocurrency to enable other people to deal with the other problems. Sounds great on the surface. It's the infrastructure that you think can be built apolitically that is problematic. That is the problem. The narrow interpretation is how I intended the mission to be understood. I don't think companies can succeed trying to do everything. I totally agree with that. You have to be focused. You have to have a strategy. Creating an open financial system for the world is already a huge, ambitious mission. I agree. And we could easily spend the next decade or two trying to move the needle on the global economic freedom. This is what our economy globally, I don't care if you yen, the lira, euros, pounds, dollars, um, it's all rooted in white supremacy. It is all rooted as whiteness as the default. Period. Period. Because even if you look at yen, people have other countries have replicated our economic system, and it's rooted in white supremacy. So what you're going to do is replicate white supremacy in this crypto economy infrastructure you're trying to create if you don't address those things that you think are unrelated to your business. A clear agreement. At our Q3 all hands meeting this past week, I shared with the company the above clarification of our culture and mission. These types of clarifications are needed periodically. I absolutely agree. As almost every year, there will be some sort of event which tests the culture. My goal is to create clarity for all employees going forward about how we're going to operate. I suspect that the vast majority of people will be excited to proceed in this direction. After all, the mission is what we all signed up for and is what Coinbase is uniquely positioned to achieve as a company. But for some employees, working at an activism focused company may be core to what they want. And we want to prompt that conversation with their managers to help them get to a better place. Life is too short to work somewhere you're not excited about, and we're happy to make it a win-win conversation. I'm going to tell you right now, nobody from a marginalized company under these marginalized community under these circumstances feels safe enough to come to tell you any damn thing. That is the most privileged statement in this document. It is the veil of we want a win-win, the veil of we're here to support, and yet everything, so many things in this document communicate the absolute opposite of that. We've clarified this new agreement and some new internal communication guidelines that we published in the last month. But in summary, it says we won't debate causes or political candidates internally that are unrelated to work. We won't expect the company to represent. We won't expect the company to represent our personal beliefs externally. We won't assume negative intent or not have each other's backs. Oh my God. Just saying that is just brings up so much trauma. I just think about the people who have to work in this with the assumption that the lie, that's a lie, that we have each other's backs, because nothing in traditional business operations proves that. And the assumption we don't assume negative intent, and then we don't take on activism outside of our core mission of works. We will fight to get on the same page when we have differences. We will support each other and create team cohesion. We will assume positive intent. We will put the company's goal ahead of our teams and individuals' goals. Of course, employees should feel free to advocate around issues of pay, conditions of employment, and violations of law, for instance. And I said, this is siloed thinking. Again, people from marginalized communities have learned to navigate around this bullshit, and they won't tell you anything. So in conclusion, I recognize that our approach is not for everyone and may be controversial. And this, again, is what I read. I know that many people do not agree, and some employees may resign. I also know that some of what I've written above will be misinterpreted. I don't think, I know I didn't do that, because I was looking at it through the lens of the guiding principles, whether accidentally or on purpose. But I believe that this is the right approach for Coinbase that will set us up for success long term. And I would rather be honest and transparent about this than equivocate and work in a company that is not aligned. We need to do a better job of being authentic about who we are. And hopefully, this blog post is the first step in that direction. We're an intense culture and we are an apolitical culture. We are also committed to making Coinbase a place that creates incredible job opportunities and welcome environment for people of every age, race, gender, sexual orientation, etc. And so what I want to do is, and then he says, oh, that's his, if you want to work for him. So what I want to do is to wrap this up is, I get this. I get it. And yet it's harmful. And this is why we have the guiding principles, the hashtag causeascene guiding principles. This is why I'm talking about profit without oppression. This is why I'm saying we need to redefine capitalism without white supremacy. And what are the economics of being anti-racist? Because our economy in this country is built on the annihilation of indigenous people and the enslavement of Africans. And other countries who would maybe listen to this globally, you benefited from the annihilation of indigenous people and the enslavement of Africans from the US. Every one of your cultures benefited from that. So we need to start thinking differently. We need to stop trying to get back to the status quo when marginalized individuals were too afraid to say anything. We need to embrace that work is going to be uncomfortable. We're going to get distracted because we need to, particularly when you're talking about solving the world's economic problems through cryptocurrency, which most people don't understand. That's another thing. Cryptocurrency is elitist in itself, it's privilege in itself. The average person does not have access to creating cryptocurrency, mining it, creating businesses around it. All you see us as consumers of your products. That has to shift. But this makes sense if you only see marginalized people as consumers of your products and not as competitors for your products and services. So I just wanted to really break that down because, again, once I say it, I can draw people, share this video with people. But these are the conversations that I'm going to be having moving forward. I will be dissecting these kind of resources that come out so that people can see it through a different lens. So thank you and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.